Thank you so much for staying with us. We've been talking to Professor Pat Utomi, a political economy and management expert, a former presidential candidate. I'd like to show you the APC campaign promise, some of those things they told Nigerians before they got into power, and just highlighting some of the major parts of the campaign promises of the APC, some of which includes creating a phased social insurance scheme to assist certain groups in the population with social welfare payments through a phased program, starting with young people under 30 and the unemployed, senior citizens over 70, the disabled and armed service veterans, a free daily school meal for all children attending primary school, 3 million new jobs a year, guaranteed free education, employ at least an extra 100,000 police officers, provide interest-free loans for university technical school students who meet the required entry qualifications, direct conditional monthly social security payment for 25 million of the poorest Nigerians. Well, let's flip the page now to see what exactly is obtainable. That was before May 29, before the APC got in the government. They had this plan. But this is the current economic realities in the country right now. Nigeria 2016 budget estimate is about 6.8 trillion naira, but well, it was passed as 6.06 trillion. The oil benchmark is put at $38 per barrel. And oil production projection is put at 2.2 million barrels per day. At the parallel market, you can get the dollar for about 300 naira. A Nigerian worker receives about a minimum wage of less than $100. That's about 18,000 naira monthly, which some states are saying they cannot pay and they might want to slash it. And the foreign reserve is just about $30 billion or below that. And the foreign reserve per person is about $350. A political economy. Well, we need an expertise to look into these areas and where we go from here.
Okay. A party's manifesto is a statement of desire, intentions, or track to travel. And it's important to send the signal of the desired path. The resources that are required to make each one happen at each stage of our plan. And that's why I talked about a perspective plan. You can have a perspective plan over a 30-year period. The Koreans say, we want to become dominant shipbuilders in the world in 30 years. And you begin to work towards it in every budget going forward. So, in principle, I think that those ideals are very important, especially because we have seen them help turn around some economies that have similar patterns as us. Classic example being Brazil. You know, I like the Brazil story every time we talk about Nigeria. But there's a very critical element, the passion and the commitment of the people who play. Brazil was often called a country of potential, great potential, but never achieving its potential. When Enrique Fernando Cardoso, who was a great dependency theorist, returned from Economic Commission of Latin America to Brazil and became, at the time, foreign minister, came back from exile. Brazil was a basket case. Inflation used to be so bad that if you got into a store in Brazil, if you didn't buy quickly, the prices may change twice between when you collected the item and when you got to checkout counter. So all of those things were happening. The lifespan of the finance minister was 3 months. They were fired. And then the president asked Cardoso to be finance minister. And Cardoso realized that, wait a minute, all he had stood for in his intellectual life was not what was at stake. What was at stake was the future of the children and the grandchildren of the people of Brazil. And he brought together a group of bright, young Brazilian economists and said, look, let's lock ourselves into this door, shout, quarrel from morning till night, as long as it takes, come out with what works for Brazil. Not what Cardoso used to think is the way things should be. Don't mind. What Cardoso has going for him is that the people of Brazil trusts Cardoso. Whatever you all agree is the way forward, I, Cardoso, will take my legitimacy on those ideals, on those ideas, and we will implement them. Brazil's inflation came to a screeching halt. Brazil took a strategy that was the exact opposite of what Cardoso had represented his whole intellectual life. In effect, Fernando Cardoso committed intellectual suicide. And Brazil began to grow. It went the path of globalization. As different from Cardoso's position as an academic in ECLA, when they talked about selective delinking from global capitalism and all of those. Of course, Cardoso went on to become president of Brazil. And when Lula da Silva came, these kinds of policies that you were talking about in the manifesto were the kinds of policies, conditional cash transfers, that empowered some of the poorest, the left behind in Brazil. And their consumption spawned the growth. Before we knew it, Brazil became the 6th largest economy in the world. It is possible that our country can do that, but people should not bring the ideas that they left behind 30 years ago to determine where our country. For example, I'll give you a simple example. I am one of those completely nonplussed by this whole petrol business. I just can never understand it. I can't figure it out. I don't know why we play this game. I have come to a conclusion that every Nigerian political class wants his friends to make money at the expense of the poor people of Nigeria. That's why we have this whole fuel subsidy.
You don't have business having scarcity.
See, ask anybody who wants to build a refinery to build one on the Nigerian coastline for export. Forget about how much we sell in Nigeria or not sell. Let's even leave that for the moment. If everybody builds, you know how many million jobs we will create, just refineries everywhere and the whole coastline with crude oil everywhere for export. And then we say, look, anybody who has petrol to sell in Nigeria, sell any amount you like. I want to take a bet with anybody that within 1 year, the Nigerian people will be paying less than official government price for petrol today. But we take on these dirigist ideas in the name of protecting the people, and we make them suffer. You know who's suffering the most? The smallest, the poorest guys. Look, it's people like me who have drivers, who can keep them in petrol stations for a whole day. The ordinary guy who wants to go out with his Danfo to run is going to look for somewhere to pay 200 naira for the thing so he can get on with his business. So you are subsidizing those who do not need to be subsidized and punishing the poorest of the poor and making the environment not work.
All right, Prof, just before we go now, President Muhammadu Buhari has a huge job on his hands, himself and his team, and it's not a very good time to be president of Nigeria, is it? What should he be doing right now?
This may be the very best time to be president of Nigeria. Some people see trouble when others see opportunity. This is the time to mobilize the people and say, look, these are our challenges. Folk, let's get together and fix this thing. It's one of the best opportunities to make a difference.
Thank you so much, Professor Pat Utomi, a political economics and former presidential candidate in Nigeria, talking to us. Thank you so much for your time.
Great pleasure.
Well, on a final note, Nigeria is at a crossroad, one which needs precision and sound judgment for us to get to the promised land. Where exactly is the promised land, and what will get us there? At a point where more than 20 states of the nation's 36 states of the Federation find it difficult to pay their workers, and the nation is trying to look inwards on creating alternative income streams, critical positions need to be arrived at. And these are probably a focused and strong leadership that will help to engineer a way forward. People have suggested that we need to reconfigure our political structure and also rework our legal framework. But that's the program today. I'm Sean Wakimale. Bye for now.